Welcome back to Sustained Overrule. The FFS, you are very funny. FFS said maybe 11. W- Do you work the graveyard shift or something? Why would you want to be out here so late? Like, what's going on? I hope you guys had a fantastic Sunday. Let me see. What do you guys have going on? Well, it's just Diggy and FFS going back and forth, back and forth. Okay. And FFS, I still have to reply to your email. I've not forgotten about you. I was actually going to do it before I came on the live, but you guys were already in here. So, yeah, that kind of, changed course for me. But let me pull up this video. Hold on. I have to find Real Things email. She sent me a link. Let me open. Oop, there we go. All right. Let me. Ooh, my cursor has problems. All right. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let us share. Hey, Real Thing. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. All right, I believe Real Thing. This is the link that you shared with me, right? Because that's what I clicked on. Hopefully, I think that's the right video. I hope that's the right video. So let's get into it, though. Let me close this tab. Hold on. I had to. Let's see. FFA says. That's funny. I do actually reply within 7 to 14 business days. That's exactly what I do. You're so funny. You're really funny. You need to get on YouTube. You need to get on YouTube. I'll put this up. I'll put the link up in case anybody wants to join, but let's get into it. I know FFS wants this whole thing to go closer to midnight, but I got a job and I have to iron my clothes, okay? I have to. You guys should see my floors. My floors are spotless. This is one of my favorite days of the week because I clean on Sundays. Okay, yeah, you can definitely feel free to share the timestamps, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But let's start off from the. Is this supposed to be a 38-minute video? I mean, I'm probably gonna turn it into a 2 or 3 hour video, but okay. I just want to be sure that I'm on the right video Real Thing, but this is 38 minutes. Is this in fact what we're supposed to be watching or no? Let me know. Okay, I'm gonna get started though.
Truly humble
Okay.
under God. That's what thug means.
All right.
I plead the fifth. This court holds you in willful contempt. If you don't tell me how you got the information, I'm going to hold you in contempt.
Judge Earl Glanville is no longer the judge presiding over this case.
I take full responsibility for, my crimes.
I want you to try to be more of the solution and less of the problem.
She called
The
that
longest trial in
problematic.
Georgia history, the YSL RICO trial, has finally come to a close after
problematic.
years of legal battles,
All right, sounds
courtroom
good. Thank you.
delays, multiple plea deals, including one that led to Young Thug's release. With the case against the remaining
right.
co-defendants now over, we're going to talk with some of the jurors as we take a look back at the key
Okay.
moments that define this very complex trial. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. Jesse Weber.
Come on, Jesse.
The high-profile, lengthy RICO trial that began against the rapper Young Thug and his 5 co-defendants has officially
When I finally do a face reveal, I'll be sitting behind. I'll be sitting behind a bookcase, wearing a suit every day.
ended, officially bringing the longest trial in Georgia history to a close. This legal saga of the YSL RICO trial began back in 2022 when Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams, alongside several co-defendants, was charged in a sprawling case that connected him to these violent activities of Young Slime Life, YSL, a group that prosecutors argued was a criminal street gang. Prosecutors had accused Williams of being the leader of this criminal enterprise that was behind a series of violent crimes. They said it was murder, attempted murder, robbery, drug trafficking. Defense lawyers, though, had a different take. They countered that YSL wasn't a gang, but it was a record label, Young Stoner Life. And it was just a network of artists and friends who portrayed a tough gangster image in the music to reflect their life experiences, but they weren't criminals.
All right.
By the time the trial finally kicked off in November of last year, though, Young Thug was left to stand trial along with now just 5 other co-defendants. There was a whole multitude of reasons why the other ones, their cases were severed, they took deals, but he was tried with 5 other co-defendants, and that was Diamante Kendrick, Shannon Stillwell, Rodalius Ryan, Marvius Nichols, and Marquavius Huey. And in a trial that was plagued by delays and interruptions, many of the most tense and heated moments actually happened outside of the jury's presence. Like this moment when a voice was heard on the courtroom Zoom feed of a person yelling for a mistrial.
Hey, Brooklyn. How's it going? Let's see. FFS says Allie, Jasmine, and Jerome protesting. They might be. Who knows? Who knows? Hey, Simply Me. Who knows? For anybody and everybody that's just joining, Real Thing wants us to react to.
There's pulp in here?
Oh, hold on. No, it says pulp free.
Oh.
Yeah. So we are reacting to, let's see, obviously Law and Crime, but from my understanding, the jurors, at least, let's see, they reveal some secrets. So that's what we are doing. This is a 38-minute video, but knowing me, it's probably a 2-hour video. So let's get into it.
Free fuck, mistrial. Free fuck, mistrial.
Or how about this moment when Diamante Kendrick's attorney, Doug Weinstein, motioned to limit the state's witnesses?
We are losing our jurors. I look over there at them and they are trying their best. They are trying their hardest. Often they are taking notes, but other times they have just tuned out.
And there were numerous arguments over rulings.
As the court has said,
When do the jurors get up here?
by law enforcement until an attorney has been made available or until the suspect reinitiates the conversation. They hold
Your
those
Honor,
two
at
things.
some
Your
point,
Honor, I'm
Your
sorry,
Honor.
I'm talking,
Your
and I
Honor,
don't
Judge.
know why I'm being interrupted.
Your
I will
rulings
not
need
stop.
to be final.
I was the one speaking before Mr. Weinstein interrupted.
But you continually engage in this pattern of behavior, Ms. Love. You don't want to accept my ruling.
Your Honor,
I know you're being an advocate, but at some point, stop.
And even
Sheesh.
attempts to recuse the trial's first judge, Judge Earl Glanville.
I make a motion to ask you to please recuse yourself. You're yelling at me in front of a jury for nothing. And then you won't apologize.
You're yelling too.
And I did nothing wrong.
This trial was just, I don't know, very chaotic, very chaotic. Hey, Jasmine. Okay, what am I fast forwarding to? Where do I go? Brooklyn says while he was interviewed, Young Thug calls in with FaceTime and asked Mr. Adams to fight for him to get him off parole. Somebody else mentioned this, I believe it was last week, and I think it was Real Thing that said that it was in gist, so he was not actually being serious. Okay, I'll just let it play because I don't know where to fast forward to.
Ever.
And let's not forget when Young Thug's attorney, Brian Steele, told the jury what the name Young Thug really means.
It was his pact that if he could ever make it as a musical artist
All right.
and help his family, himself, and as many others out of this endless cycle of hopelessness, he would be truly humble under God. That's what.
Okay, so
thug means.
557.
And more memorable moments also came from the state's lineup of their supposed star witnesses.
Number in years are you?
Big woo. Hold on, I need to.
Grown.
The most infamous witness of the trial, Kenneth Lil
All
Woody
too much.
Copeland. Now, he was deemed the state's star witness, or at least that was one way he was portrayed, but he was less than cooperative when he first took the stand.
It's a nice way of
How
putting
old
it.
are you?
Grown.
Grown.
Okay, what does grown mean?
I'm an adult.
I'm an adult.
And when you say you're an adult, what number in years are you?
I plead the fifth. Mr. Copeland, given the fact that you have invoked your Fifth Amendment privilege, but the state has already given you immunity under 24-5-507, this court holds you in willful contempt.
Hey, by the way, before we go any further, I have to thank Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's Law and Crime YouTube takeover. Here's the truth. One of the most unpredictable things in life is if you Judge Glanville and prosecutors in the judges' chambers, no defense counsel was present. And that led to courtroom chaos and the eventual recusal of Judge Glanville. So I want to start at the beginning here. When Brian Steele confronted Judge Glanville about what he learned, but he wouldn't reveal how he learned it.
It was told, based upon information belief, that it was told to the district attorneys that Mr. Copeland intended to plead the Fifth Amendment.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I'm kind of disturbed because that's ex parte.
That man says
all that was an ex parte conversation. How did you find out about any of that?
Based upon information
Okay, well, listen, if you don't tell me how you got this information, then you and I are going to have some problems.
And boy, oh boy, did they have some problems because Brian Steele discovered that the judge and the prosecution team, as I mentioned, they met with Kenneth Copeland in secret in the judge's chambers. None of this was privy to the defense. And even worse, Steele claimed that he learned in this meeting, Copeland allegedly confessed to a key murder in the case, that of Donovan Thomas Jr. And that Copeland
I don't know. Do we believe that, though? Do we believe that? I know. Let me think. I'm trying to think what Jasmine said. I cannot remember if Jasmine was of the opinion that Lil Woody murked Donovan or not. What do the rest of you think? Was that his work or no? Was that his work or no?
With jail time if he refused to testify. So Judge Glanville storms off the bench after this very tense
today,
moment.
Considering this is going to be a short video, today would be a great day to watch the Kayla Bumpus testimony, because I actually did not see her on the stand. I did not watch the actual testimony.
And when they come back on the record, he holds Brian Steele in contempt for not revealing how he found out about the ex parte meeting.
Well, I'm going to hold you in contempt. You cannot eavesdrop and get information that was not.
That is not eavesdropping.
Not meant for you to hear at that particular point in time.
Sure.
And things just continued to unravel because this trial would later go on an 8-week.
Out of everything that has happened in this trial, I think the ex parte meeting was the most criminal. That was the most criminal conduct that anybody in this trial has engaged in. Because that was, I don't know, I had never heard of something like that until obviously it happened here.
Long hiatus to investigate this ex parte meeting, meaning 8 weeks where the jury didn't hear any testimony.
Right.
Ultimately, another judge ended up removing Glanville from the case, writing in her order that while the court has no doubt that Judge Glanville can and would continue presiding fairly over this matter if the recusal motions were denied, the necessity of preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system weighs in favor of excusing Judge Glanville from further handling of the case. So he was removed. And when court reconvened in August, the jurors were introduced to a whole different judge.
Right.
My name is Judge Paige Reese Whitaker. Judge Earl Glanville is no longer the judge presiding over this case.
And from there, court resumed hearing testimony from Kenneth Lil Woody Copeland, who admitted that he had never really been truthful when it came to his alleged involvement in the murder of Donovan Thomas.
What's your new version? What's your truth today?
That I lied.
And that you lied about everything back in 2015?
My truth today is I lied and put the blame on others.
All right, let's get to 26. Hold on. I want to see. Hold on. There are jurors out here. Look at Mr. Bump.
Aggravated assault charges. And he ultimately acquitted both men of an array of charges.
Right.
They did convict Shannon Stillwell on a felony gun possession charge.
Actually has nice teeth.
10 years
I know that's unrelated,
with an
but
allowance
nice
for time
teeth.
served. But having said all of that, that is how this case concluded. So after all that, now I want to bring on some special guests. I am joined by actual jurors from the Young Thug RICO trial. So it's great to have you all here. Thank you so much. I am going to refer to you by juror numbers. So we have juror 387. 387, say hi.
Oh, okay.
There we go. We have juror 508. 508, say hi. And we have juror 225. There we go. Okay, so first of all, I bet me saying that you still felt like you're in jury duty. You feel like you're probably still in the courtroom as I said this. All right, I have been following this for so long. I'm going to ask each of you, what was it like being a
Hold on. Hold on. I'll put my glasses away. Let me try and I'm gonna increase. It doesn't make much of a difference. No, but it does increase. No, so that's no. Hold on, I'm messing around. Hopefully that's not messy. I don't think it's messing with your screens. But I was trying to zoom in on the text because it's tiny. Okay. So Diggy said that's what we do. We take the time and consequences, unfortunately. All right. Uh, let's go back. I just lost the chat. Did I lose the chat? I think I lost the chat. All right, let's see. Okay, so Brooklyn says, okay, the reason they ask every witness how old they are, I think, is there a reason they ask every witness how old they are? Is it to show that he is, are you saying competent? Um, I don't know why they do it in Georgia. I assumed that, I mean, I don't practice in Georgia, but I assumed that it was more of the preliminary questions, such as what do you do for a living, blah, 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 blah. Basically, to try and get I thought it's to try and get the witness comfortable, but somebody from Georgia would know better. I have never, in no jurisdiction, have I ever asked a witness how old they were unless they were a minor. So let's see. Oh, competent. All right, let's see. Let's get back in here.
Juror on the longest case in Georgia history that everybody was following. 225, I'll start with you.
Dang, she's matching the state. She she has that red on.
Well, it was definitely an experience. I don't think any of us knew how big the trial was until like now, after the fact. We had no idea that so many people were actually following the trial. But it definitely was. It was an experience. It was a chapter in my life that I won't forget. It was interesting. There were highs and lows. It was a wild ride for sure.
Right.
Oh, we won't forget it either. Let me tell you, a lot of people won't forget this trial. 387, I'll throw it to you. And I was going to ask all of you guys, but did you know what was happening when you weren't in the courtroom? I mean, now, do you appreciate now?
I know. Real thing, you had questions, so feel free to pop up whenever and ask your questions whenever. And if anybody else has questions, obviously, put them in the chat or use the link.
What was happening? All the drama that was happening in the courtroom when you guys weren't present. 387, I'll start with you.
I mean, even with us being out, I haven't taken time out to watch all of it. I know a lot of people are very curious to know what our reactions to some of the stuff will be. So I've tried to make it a habit of just not looking. I'm not trying to see it yet. That way you get raw, uncut footage of my actual reaction.
Right.
But I mean, we knew at some point, at least if we were in the building, something could be going on. The wall's not that big, so you can hear them get loud.
Oh, really? That is insane. Oh, okay. So they have thin walls out there. That's good to know. That's
back
crazy.
and forth. May not be able to get all the diction right to know what was said.
Right.
But something's going on.
Right.
You just never knew at what capacity.
And Juror 508, what was it like for you? I mean, again, must have been quite an experience.
It has been. Again, this is my first time ever being a juror. So everything is new to me. Everything is new. And it's been rough. And we had days where they were good. Then we had days where I was just ready to go home.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask all of you. Whoever wants to jump in first. The fact that this was so long, did you know how long it would be and how long it actually ended up being? What was that like?
Definitely didn't think it was going to be that long. I know during our interview process, I was told at least 6 to 9 months. It would not be a year.
Yeah.
372 days later.
Even 9 months is pretty lengthy for a trial.
It's something totally different. So definitely didn't anticipate what that could look like or how that would like directly affect home life balance.
Yeah.
Especially with the beginning of the trial. You never knew exactly how long your day could be. We had a pretty good idea for the most part when we would start, at least get notice the day before or throughout the week if something was going to change, but you never know when you're going to go home.
It was long. It was hard. It was rough. just adjusting to something that was fairly new and trying to make the best of it.
Juror 225, one of the most, I mean, I couldn't imagine what this was like for you guys, but when you think of the break, this trial went on a 2-month-long break, an 8-week hiatus, returns with a different judge.
Right.
What did you make of that?
Well, I mean, honestly, we had no idea what was going on. It wasn't like we knew that the break was going to be that long and we could like plan, and like we were literally sitting at home just kind of waiting on information from the courts as to when we would come back. We would get different information, like every day it would change. They would be like, oh, you guys are coming back tomorrow. And then it's, oh, the next day and the next day. So we were kind of just on call and we were just waiting.
Wait.
And
do you guys remember the juror number for I guess I'm trying to think. I believe sometime after 56 wrote a letter to the judge. There was a judge questioned, but not a judge, a juror questioned by the court, something to do with a co-worker and when they were going to return. Do we know if it was 225 or not?
And before we knew it, it was like 7 weeks that we had just been kind of sitting around, our life on hold. We couldn't really plan anything or do anything. And then when we got back and it was a new judge, like obviously we couldn't ask what was going on. No one was going to tell us. Me personally, I was hoping that it wasn't anything like medical with Glanville. That's honestly what I assumed, because, you know, we knew that he had Jack, the dog, and we didn't know why. So, but when we got back in there, it was just kind of like, all right, we're back to work. This is different, but we just got to roll with the punches and continue to listen to this trial and do our jobs.
And Juror 508, I mean, there was also a point when the defendants were whittled down. Because we know now there were those who took plea deals. Were you confused by that at any point when you saw the number of defendants going down?
I definitely was confused. I was like, hey, we left, it was 6.
Right. And that's why I don't remember if it was Brooklyn or somebody else. After us, Jeffrey and them took plea deals. I think it was, no, I believe that was Greg. He had asked me if there was any sense if the remaining 2 defendants would have been prejudiced by the co-defendants taking pleas. And there was also a question to the effect of whether the jurors would have, made an inference as to the absence. And my response was that in order for them to figure out that these the defendants had taken plea deals, they would have had to have had actual contacts with the criminal justice system. Otherwise, if you don't have experience, or they did not have experience to that extent, then they would kind of be clueless.
Now we're down to 2. So I could go on and on and on about where they went, what happened, and things of that sort, but I knew it wasn't going to get any answers to it. So we just basically, like 225 said, we just had to kind of just go in and just continue forth with whatever was presented to us.
Juror 387, look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've been following this case. I was confused as to what was happening with the actual evidence. I was confused as to what this argument was about, what this witness was about. I was trying to tie it into the overall case. And this is somebody, I mean, I'm an attorney. I follow this every day. Was it confusing for you? Was it confusing for any of you? I'll start with you, Juror 387, about why this witness was being called, how it ties into the overall racketeering case, or did it maybe, you being there day in and day out, did it seem very streamlined? Was it easy what the prosecution and the defense were doing?
No, definitely not. I think we only went over the indictment once.
Hold on, let's see. Dang, I need to keep up with the chat. FFS, they use it to gauge it, how you answer your questions, your demeanor while you're answering simple questions, to see if it changes or how it changes. Brooklyn, then why did they flip-flop on that? Yeah, man said he's grown. He's an adult. Okay, let's see. 409. Which one is 409? I cannot keep up. Oh, they're saying leave 409 alone. Or maybe I don't. Diggy might be telling. Diggy might be saying that to me. I know not. Why couldn't he wait till Monday and plead the fifth? Okay, you guys are talking to each other. Let me leave that alone. All right, I'll play this and then I'll read the comment.
And that was back like in January 5th of 23. So trying to understand or remember what the charges were, how this kind of correlates with the other. I think in the beginning it was a lot of confusion because you started off with like experts and opening statements. And then it's like, okay, you keep hearing a name and I'm like, who is that? I don't know how this ties in with the other one. I think for me, I just try to keep up with dates and try to do like correlations between
Oh,
the
I
two
get
where
it.
things were relatively close
So
to the
it was
other.
409. Got it.
If there was like a commonality of what people brought up to see, okay, this kind of ties into this. Like my notebook kind of
Why
looks
are
like
you
a flow
talking
chart
about
outside
FFS?
of like my messiness. Like just trying to piece things together because I don't think we ever got it wasn't like an outline. It wasn't like a chart to kind of keep us organized on an alignment. We were just trying to guess in the beginning. I think closer to the end, some of the picture got clear. But it wasn't like organized or detailed enough to be like, okay, I
And that's what I kept saying. The prosecution did a terrible job as far as connecting the dots. They waited, no, I don't even know how much of the dots they could have connected, but they waited until the very last minute to connect a lot of the dots when they should have been doing that from the gate with every witness and every testimony.
know what I'm doing every day. It's more so like I take all this information and then trying to funnel it to see what the correlation to something else was or how something is directly affected by an event that we talked about today or 2 weeks ago. So like you kind of flip back and forth in notes. You might start something, a correlation between a witness to kind of go from there. People had to kind of like figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
And
terrible.
Juror 225, I understand you were one of the jurors that actually rendered the verdict, was one of the deliberating jurors, because I believe 387 and 508, you were alternates, correct? And so
Correct.
before 225, before I go to you about the deliberations, 508, I'll go to you. We were just talking before about all the witnesses that testified, and there were some notable witnesses who were very interesting on the stand. Which were some that stood out to you and you said, wow, that's a moment right there?
For me, I really didn't have like a favorite, but like the most memorable witness was, of course, the world can pretty much tell you it was Woody. But someone that we kind of gravitate more towards was Miss Sharon, the 911 operator. It was she was in there as much as we were, so I think she was a part of our team as well. But those were the ones that pretty much just kind of stood out more. So for me.
387-225, what do you think?
I was also going to say, I like Miss Ladner's also. But while we were going in there, while we were sitting in there, like I held every witness, to the same level. Like there was no one witness that I'm like, oh, this is, the key witness. Like I evaluated the evidence and the testimony that was provided by all of the witnesses.
And they had some really, really good jurors. I like this. I like this.
Equally. So I can't say that there were any favorites. Obviously there were some, some memorable moments. But when we were there, we weren't there necessarily, there for entertainment.
Right.
So, we were really focused on what it was that those witnesses were bringing in their testimony.
Okay.
And 387?
Memorable in the sense that of people that are kind of like leave a lasting impression. Mr. Montgomery, that sticks out to me. I think he was one of the victims. Sheilan Bennett, I might have mispronounced her first name. That kind of interaction kind of stuck out to me. That's something I probably won't forget. And I wouldn't say that was because they were favorites. I think it just kind of exposed, for my personal self, some character opportunities. I just feel like they could have been handled better, per se. So those are kind of like two that kind of stick out if I think about like names or processes through this
Okay,
process.
so based on, I forgot, I'm terrible, two things. I'm terrible with numbers and names, maybe even faces. Based on I forgot her number already, but based on what this alternate juror, based on the testimony she thought stood out, right? It makes me question if the jury would have deliberated longer had she been on the jury. And the reason I am saying this is because, sure enough, there's no question that the individuals in this case were engaged in conduct, some criminal conduct. Okay, I still believe, I'm going to stand by that, the prosecution definitely overcharged. But I'm trying to figure out which video, one of these lives. Okay, um, as much as folks want to focus on the defendant in this case, um, we should also, at least I make it a point not to lose sight of the fact that there were, in fact, victims in, a lot of, I don't even know what to call it. I don't want to call it criminal conduct. Oh, Real Thing is up here. Hey, Real Thing. You're muted.
Hey, hey,
What's up?
I'm here. I'm just listening. I'm here in the
Oh, okay.
background.
Yeah, no, it's because I'm usually on the screen that I'm sharing. That's typically how I do it. So I don't always see what's on the StreamYard. What is this? The StreamYard page or site or whatever it is. I don't even know the proper terminology. But what do you think about the testament or the witnesses that stood out to this alternate juror?
Yes, very telling. Very telling. When she was talking about Miss Bennett,
Yeah.
Obviously the state, the prosecutors came off as very insensitive, a little too aggressive, even with her job being in jeopardy all of that. And then on top of it, the investigator flirting with her.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Really? So that's all in front of the jury. Right. I'm sure they the jury took all that into consideration. Like, this is the state conduct regarding their witnesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that played a part in it. I think that's why I really wanted you to hear this part.
Oh, okay. Well, I caught on to it before you even asked. So I thought, yeah, that was for sure interesting. But it makes me wonder because she's an alternate, meaning that she actually did not get to deliberate, right? But the fact that the witnesses that had an impression on her were victims, that makes me wonder if the jury would have deliberated longer. But it would also depend on whether this alternate juror has a strong personality or not, because people that do not have strong personalities are easily swayed. Whereas if we go by the lady that was on Dennis channel, she was set, I guess she's headstrong. So a juror, if she was a deliberating juror, then probably it would have been the case would have been in a different posture right now. So okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I see what you were asking. You're right. So because I watched all three of their interviews,
yeah,
she already said the evidence wasn't there for her. This is juror 387. So even though she was mostly impacted by the victims, it sounds like she's saying her decision, her verdict would have been the same. But 409, they even said that she has a strong personality. So
which one is 409?
She's the one that would have voted guilty.
Yeah.
They said she has a very strong personality.
Yeah, that's typically how these things turn out. But I'm surprised they did not. I mean, if they made her 4-person, that would have been a goddamn disaster. But okay. All right, let's get into this.
I guess, and I'm going to go back to 387 and 508 about your take on what the verdict was, but I want to go to 225 right now.
All right.
What was the deliberation process like?
Well, I mean, thankfully, I was in there with 11 other amazing jurors. Obviously, over the course of the year, we had gotten to know each other. So I think that that kind of made the deliberation process a little bit easier. It wasn't like you were just going in with somebody that you had been sitting on a trial with for like a week. So, you know, we were a lot more sympathetic. We had kind of already understood each other's personalities and things like that. So I think that Juror 56 did a great job as the foreman with kind of laying the foundation and setting the tone for obviously everyone showing respect to each other. We made it clear that from the beginning that if anybody had any questions, like we were a team, and even if it was just one person, we would all go out there so that that one person could get clarity on the evidence. Most of we took the counts one by one, took a vote, an initial vote, and the majority of the room was undecided because most people just said, you know, we want to talk about it. Like, we don't want to make a decision just yet. Like, let's hear other people's opinions on where they stand. So we really collaborated, went through evidence together, explained things to one another that other people may have been confused about. And it was a team effort. We agreed that we would be in there as long as we needed to be in there. So it wasn't terrible. We got along. There were a couple of, you know, intense moments, but then we always pulled it back and remembered why we were there and the purpose. And we really wanted to just focus on the evidence that was provided.
What was the problem in the prosecution's case, you think?
Jesse, that's not a good follow-up question. You should have asked for her to clarify what she, you know, we want to know about what was I guess the heated moments. I want to know what it is that they were fighting or arguing about.
Think that the evidence, like, there was a lot of evidence that was provided, but something that we did discuss during deliberations is that the evidence that we may have needed to come up with a different verdict was not there. We had a lot of evidence, and, you know, a lot of it didn't necessarily seem to mean much to a lot of the jurors.
I wish they had been more specific, because this is all, I mean, they really don't have to talk to anybody. So they don't have to talk to anybody. But I wish there was a bit more depth to the responses, because it's kind of fluff. It's fluff in the sense of I'm not going away from this interview with new information that I did not know, or new information that I did not assume. So I don't know. I need more depth to these responses.
The things that we really wanted to see was
Like
not
what?
there. So the evidence was definitely something that I think that they could have done better with. And it also, what 387 said, as far as like just the organization of it all, it was very hard to follow. So I think that it could have been streamlined. It could have been organized better. They could have told a better story to kind of pull everything together. That was definitely an area where I think that they may have dropped the ball.
I'm going to ask 387 and 508 if you agree with the verdict. So 508, I'll start with you. Do you agree with what 225, you know, her description of these events and her perception of the prosecution? Do you agree with the verdict with respect to those two defendants?
I do. I definitely agree with the verdict, because pretty much while we were there, we did see the same evidence. We saw the same things. So I do agree with what she said. It was just, you know, the evidence was presented, but everything wasn't connecting for me. So I definitely agree with it.
387?
I'm in agreement. I think understanding that, to say that somebody would have had to be guilty, there not being any doubt.
What?
And I think that's probably the biggest hang up.
What? Hold on. Let's go back.
Everything wasn't connecting for me. So I definitely agree with it.
387?
I'm in agreement. I think understanding that, to say that somebody would have had to be guilty, there not being any doubt. And I think that's probably the biggest hang up, at least for my personal self. There were holes, there were opportunities, there was some level of doubt. So it wasn't like I wouldn't have been able to say that they were guilty with conviction.
Let me ask you this. As you know, you didn't have to decide Young Thug's guilt or not because he ended up taking a deal. Would anyone have found him guilty?
Can't say that in confidence. For the simple fact that we don't know how much more information would have been provided.
Right.
Don't really remember his charges. Like
that's juror. I forgot the number already. Actually, I like
the indictment. We only heard it once, and that was January. Trial started in November.
Yeah.
I don't think we got into like the real meat of the trial until January the following year. So like for the most part, I know for myself before we got released for being alternates, that was the last time. That was the next time we actually heard what they were being charged for at closing. I don't know what that opportunity could have been.
225.
I mean, I agree.
Real thing, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to chime in. Okay, feel free to chime in. You don't you don't have to keep muted if if I'm just saying you should feel free to chime in. Any thoughts?
Okay, well, I do want to tell you, they don't really get into the meats and potatoes, of course, on this interview. It gives us an idea. Most of us just wanted to hear that they were thinking the same thing. As we were watching the trials, as just the public, we just felt so validated to hear them say, like, no, it wasn't connecting. It just, these were issues that the state had. But far as them talking about Love and Viverito, that's on their video, the Surviving YSL video.
15-minute video. I guess we can. I don't have as much high energy as I did last night, so we can definitely get into that. Okay, got it. All right, let's see. We are doing very good on time. Shout out to Flesh of the Gods. All right. Thanks for joining in and trying to see what we're up to. Okay, let me get back to the video.
I can't say whether or not we would have found a conviction or not based on the fact that I also
is Jerome in here? Oh no, where's Jerome? I don't see Jerome in here.
I mean, other than the RICO, we knew that they all had the RICO charge. I'm not sure if I don't even know what the other charges were, to be honest. And then also, I can't say if there would have been a conviction because, again, there were 11 other individuals that were in the room with me. So it would have been a collective decision based on everything that had been considered. So I can't say. I will say that learning after the fact that everybody took pleas, I do think that, they did what they thought was in their best interest. So,
Yeah, and 508, I'll throw it to you too, and also the fact that, as I'm sure you know, Young Thug was not sentenced to prison, probation, so he walked away a free man. Your thoughts on what role he may or may not have played in this?
I guess that's not up for me to kind of have an answer for, because I really don't know. If I was basing it off, again, the evidence that was presented, I can't say he was. I can't say he, wasn't. So that was our biggest thing, was just kind of focusing on the evidence and what we knew. Because like both
and these folks were really impartial, so that's good to know. I guess they struck a lucky jury, because their answers aren't they're probably very what would I call them? I don't want to say politically correct, but they're not. Jesse's also not doing a good job of asking proper follow-up questions, but then again, he probably has pre-written questions. But these folks do appear impartial for the most part, at least as far as this one interview is concerned.
Jurors said we never really knew what everyone was charged with. Of course, we did know that it was RICO, one of them, and they did mention it to us at the very beginning of the case, and that was pretty much like before the selection of being a juror. So yeah,
I do have a question about that.
And 508,
go ahead.
Okay, because they mentioned this a lot throughout is a current theme. Like I keep hearing them saying, well, we didn't even really know what each person was charged with. And they read the indictment one time in the beginning, which was November 2022. So my question to you is, would it have made a difference if they had a copy, each juror had a paper copy of the indictment throughout this trial to try to connect the dots that the prosecution was trying to make? Would that have helped them? Because they like, we don't even know what they were charged with.
Um, it probably would have, but as defense, I would have objected. Okay, I would have objected because you don't want that in front of the jurors, because otherwise, then they would be more focused, or they'd be focused more on connecting the dots as opposed to just listening to the testimony. So it may have helped the jurors as far as the prosecution's case is concerned, but for them to have this piece of paper that is constantly tying up the prosecution's loose end for them, it's not good for the defendants. So I for sure would have objected. If I was a defense attorney, I would have objected against that.
That makes sense. They did mention that the deputy said no. They told them, or they didn't say defense. I mean, I don't know if that was a part of it, but they said a deputy told them that if they had a copy of the indictment, they would find everybody guilty.
Right. Yeah, I for sure I'd have objected against that, because in that sense, right, they would have this constant reminder of what the charges are. Whereas if they have to actually focus on testimony for, I don't know, 8 months or a year or whatever, the memory, a person's memory can only do so much. So yeah, I would have objected against that, but that is a brilliant question. Let's get back.
Unless it's about the 387.
No, are there any other
frustrating
questions
for
in
you
here?
that after all that time you were an alternate and couldn't get into the deliberations?
It definitely was not frustrating at all.
Really?
It was,
No.
yeah. I did want to be there and just kind of support, but you know, the law is we have to be removed. And we did want to be there when they came out with the verdict, but unfortunately we wasn't. But they did what they saw that was presented as far as the evidence goes. So
387, you look like you agree.
I definitely agree. I mean, a lot of people, from what I've
Sorry,
seen,
225. Sorry, you were the ones that had to deliberate, but 387, you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a fly on the wall. Like I was very interested to kind of get everybody's opinion. Because granted, we're not supposed to discuss the case behind doors. During the whole process, you can't deliberate until we can deliberate. So I wanted to be like a fly on the wall, but like to actually engage in the conversation or have to go through the process of helping somebody understand or probably like rewatch any form of evidence I really didn't want to participate.
They can have it.
They can have it. They got it.
I'm happy that I was actually deliberating, because I wouldn't have wanted to sit there for a year and then like I would have felt like I was cheated. Like I had to sit there for a year. I was required to sit there for a year and listen to all of this. Like I'm going to see this thing through, because otherwise it would have felt like a year wasted for nothing, and my voice couldn't be heard. So
by the way, are you guys all friends now? Like, what's that bond after serving? By the way, I've served jury duty before. It could be like a couple days.
Have you ever served real thing?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
No, never.
Okay, me neither. But nobody in their right mind would. Just I don't know. I don't think anybody in their right mind would impanel me on a jury, because that's I'll leave it right there. That I'd probably make it. It's rare though. Typically, they don't. At least in criminal cases, typically the prosecution, as well as defense attorneys or public defenders, they typically do not want other attorneys on the jury, because, I mean, it's kind of obvious. And then the defendants and not defendants, the defense attorneys typically do not want law enforcement. I mean, you do find a lot of law enforcement though, but I know. I've not been called. I probably will never get called. We'll wait and see.
2 weeks to be together for that long. Are you guys all friends?
I'm still jealous that you said a couple weeks though. Let's talk about that first. I'm very jealous. A couple weeks.
Well,
we don't even know what that is.
It was not a trial. It was a grand jury, so you only hear like a little bit of evidence about a few different cases. But no, it wasn't a year. I mean, so 387. I'll start with you. What's the bond like?
Amongst the three of us, I think it's very close.
Okay.
We're like sisters at this point. We volunteer as aunties.
Okay.
We chime in. We send people off to college. And we go to basketball games.
Nice.
We go to birthday parties. It kind of just depends on what's going on. I mean, granted.
Look at YSL reconnecting people. That's actually very nice. I'm happy for them.
I think the commonality between the three of us is we were mothers. Like we had grade school children when this kind of started. One of us have gone on to go to college. I mean, but there's still 3 behind, right?
Okay.
As far as if I think about the dynamic of the rest of the group, there are relationships out of that as well. There are some people that will probably like check in and see how you're doing. Touch base. Would I say hang out? Maybe not with everybody. But it's not because of love lost. I think the dynamic of a jury of your peers puts into perspective. There's age differences.
Right.
All of us are kind of like in different stages of life. So it may be like highs and lows. It's like the older coworker that, you see when I'm at work. I don't see you when I leave.
Right.
It's one of those type things.
I like her. I know I've said before that I like this potential or the alternate juror. I really like her.
Ways you said how long this trial is. For a second, I thought it was, we started with young children. By the end of the trial, they're now off in college and they're married. So it's like, that's how long it took. But 508, you feel the same way, right?
Yes, I definitely feel like it's a sisterhood. And I'm appreciative of it. I think that's the good thing that we did get out of this whole ordeal. We definitely have a bond.
And look, 225, you were in the deliberation room, which can get, as you said, can get intense in times. Maybe you go in with friendships. It might not leave that the same way, but how do you feel about it with 387, 508, and your other jurors?
Well, like they said, with these two, definitely there's a sisterhood there. There's a bond that will go forward after this trial. Other people that were in there, I mean,
I want to know. Are they referring to phone 9 or whatever her number was? Like, I want to know. Tell. I want to know. Oh, okay.
I got it.
I got it. Like they said, there were there were some really good people on the jury. I think the biggest thing, like 387 said, was just like the age dynamics. We were actually, with the exception of one male, we were the youngest in there. So, we were in different stages of life and things like that. So I do still really like all of the jurors, well, most of them. And I do think that...
What's going on? What? Hold on. I don't think the comments will have anything, but I'm like, I need to know more.
Just like we form bonds, there's probably some bonds that have been formed between...
Somebody needs to write a book, okay?
Some of the other jurors amongst themselves, based on their similarities and commonalities. So I think that this trial probably helped formulate a few different types of friendships amongst the jurors. Sorry.
Well, listen, 387, 508, 225, you are exactly what the criminal justice system needs.
Right.
Jurors exactly like you.
Right.
You took this obligation, this responsibility to heart. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You carefully considered the evidence, and you were respectful of the process and each other. And it's just such a great thing to see. I'm very proud as a lawyer to see this myself. So thank you so much for not only coming on here, thank you for the service that you did, because I know this was not easy.
Right.
Not everybody gets a chance to do this. And not a lot of people would want it, but to sit on a jury this long, really, I know it's not easy. So thank you to all three of you. Really, really appreciate it. You all should be very proud of yourself. And I'm so happy that you now have formed this bond. So that's great.
Thank you. Thank you. And we did also want to say, before we leave, we always keep reiterating that we definitely have sympathy for the victims. We have not, it's not lost upon us that there were lives lost and people that were hurt and impacted. And we do send our deepest condolences to everyone that was impacted by instances that we were there to listen to the evidence on. Again, we based our decisions solely on the evidence, but we never lost sight that there were real victims. We saw some in court. We saw some pretty graphic pictures of people that are no longer with us. And that was definitely something that we want to make sure that everyone knows, that we definitely those families are in our prayers and our thoughts, and we do hope that they are able to get the justice that they deserve.
Very well
Without
said.
a
I
doubt.
appreciate you saying that. And look, that's the trial process. That's the way it is. It's not based on emotions. It's not based on what should happen. It's based on the evidence and the facts and the law. So really appreciate you saying that. 387-508-225. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
us.
I enjoyed this interview. I enjoyed the interview, but the follow-up questions could have and should have been better. Honestly, where's the what's their channel called again? Because it's 15 minutes, so we can.
Surviving YSL.
There we go. Thank you. It's 15 minutes, so we can definitely get through it. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Did I miss any questions? I've not done a good job. What's up, old bag? I've not done a good job of keeping up. I've done a good job of keeping up with the chat, but let's see. Let's see. Okay, somebody broke up with somebody in here. Old bag and Diggy broke up or something. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so Brooklyn says the YSL granny's name. I don't know. You guys are talking about something else, so let me leave that alone. Let me leave that alone because I'm not gonna know the context. Okay, I'm gonna read it anyway. The YSL granny's name is Trisha Renaud. She owns a company that consults in jury selection. She's gonna be on tomorrow on Megan, whatever her last name is. Explains how she picked the jury. Well, do you know what time? I mean, I can only watch it after I get back from work. So let's see. Oh my goodness, Flesh of the the Gods. Did you send them? Did you invite the who's this? The jurors for an interview? If you actually do secure, I hope you secure. If you do secure that interview, I'd like to, watch. I'd love to watch. I mean, I am subscribed to your channel, so I'd get a notification. All right, so let's get into this. Real thing, do you have any comments?
When they get to talking about love at around the 5 minute mark, 5:57, I really want to hear your perspective on it, because the other day you were talking about picking jurors that would like you as the attorney.
Right.
And I can understand that going on both sides. So to hear their perspective, I think that played a part.
Okay. All right. Let's tune in.
Sorry, we're channeling our is it Lieutenant or Deputy Walker from court?
One of them. One on.
She would come in all the time, be like, "Hey y'all."
These three will be talking about this trial for years to come. I don't know how old they are. I'd assume maybe 30s. I don't think anybody's 40 in this video, but I know they'll be talking about their bond over this trial.
So, whatever. But welcome back to the channel. We today we're gonna actually go through some questions that we found underneath our TikTok, our Instagram, and our YouTube channel. Yeah. So, we done had a little sip. So we don't know what's gonna slip. But so we just gonna jump right into it and get to some of y'all questions. Thanks again so much for everybody for sending questions to us.
And of course, if you have questions after this, go ahead and post it, add it in the comment section, send it as a DM, depending on where you're following us at. Let us know what you got. All right. So first question, how did y'all feel about juror 409 that kept interviewing, saying she was going to vote guilty?
All right.
You going with me?
We can.
You know how she feels.
Sorry, I know I'm a little obnoxious, but let me go back. Hold on.
All right. So, first question. How did y'all feel about Juror 409 that kept interviewing, saying she was going to vote guilty?
Yeah.
We starting with me?
Honestly, that woman's face. I'm going to go on Dennis. I'm not going to share Dennis' page on here, but I'm going to look at her face quickly. I want to remember what she looks like.
Right.
Oh, by the way, I know I'm the only person in here that watches women's basketball, but LSU won tonight. Okay, I don't know about South Carolina. I'll have to see the score, but my team won.
History behind that.
Nate requested. That's my auntie.
History behind that one.
Was not her auntie. I guess my personal feelings for that was just like,
I don't care.
If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. But some things are best left unsaid, because again, while we were there, and if we were there, we would have pretty much had the same verdict. We went off evidence, and the evidence that was presented was the verdict that you guys got. So,
but they could say the same thing. I mean, she could say the same thing about us. Some things are better left unsaid because we're voicing our opinions too. So what makes that any different?
The difference is we went off the verdict. I mean, we went off the evidence.
Right.
So, was she going off the evidence or was she going off of her personal feelings?
Well, I don't know what she was going off of, but I see that on these social media streets, y'all are letting her have it. And it actually makes me feel bad because
Flesh of the Gods, I have a question. Have you ever considered interviewing Kayla, or have you reached out to her?
I actually like old 409. Like, we used to ride together, but that was the most surprising part to me because you hear this after the.
You guys were riding together. Wait, hold on. You're doing what?
Bad because I actually like old 409. Like, we used to ride together, but that was the most surprising part to me because you hear this after the fact.
Yeah.
I would have never. I mean, I didn't think that she was, on our side. Like, she wasn't rocking with us like that. But I also totally didn't see her kind of flipping and doing the stuff that she said in that interview. Like, that completely shocked me.
I'm just curious as to know your why. We can argue all day long and say that they're not guilty, but I'm pretty sure I would have felt comfortable with being able to articulate why I said they're not guilty, or why I had doubt making them still not guilty. If you were hell bent on saying that they are, why is that?
But a lot of people hide behind their religion, and that was a big thing there.
I mean, the Bible definitely
says they cut some stuff out. I don't like that. This should have been live.
Goes without saying, cast the first stone. So there's still checks and balances, regardless of religious or faith base. My thing is that will still go back into opinion, right? Based upon the information that we were given. If you're going to say that they're guilty, tell me why.
Right.
I mean, you're entitled to it, but stand on it and have some kind of evidence to back it. If the opportunity ever presents itself, 409 is always welcome to come out and kind of say her position.
We would love. We actually
I'm very curious as to why.
She's not gonna come because of this girl. Like, I don't know these people, but she's not gonna come because of this girl.
We're gonna reach out to 409. Would y'all like to see a conversation between us and 409?
I think we should.
I think we should.
Yeah. It's not an attack. I'm very curious as to what would make you say that they were guilty, and what evidence do you have to support it.
I think it would be a healthy conversation.
And one thing about and one thing about 409, she's gonna speak up.
Just like 225-508 and 3.
See, I told you.
What's that?
I told you they said that 409 will speak up. I can tell they're saying like she don't hold back. She's a strong personality. She will say her piece, and nobody's gonna change her mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess it's a good thing. It's a good thing that she was not, a part of the deliberating jury, because I don't know. There's when it comes to SB, I am still convinced that he did that, but I don't know that obviously the prosecution could not prove it. But it's one thing to assume that a defendant engaged in certain conduct, and it's another thing for the prosecution to actually prove the case. I don't know, but we'll see. Hopefully they secure that interview. Actually, Flesh of the Gods, you need to reach out to 409 or whatever her number is. That's who you need to reach out to. She'll give you everything you need to know.
All right, what's next?
Next question. Did y'all watch the trial No.
Look, we tired of telling y'all.
We are so tired of repeating ourselves over and over and over again.
I'm just trying to understand what make y'all think we want to go see it the second time.
Right. I mean, obviously, we didn't even know all the crazy stuff that was happening. So y'all thinking that we want to go and like just rewatch the same stuff that we had already seen after the fun of it? Right, because we had no idea that all this stuff. All we thought that what y'all was seeing was what we saw.
Oh, I forgot the fact that, we took breaks. We might have been gone for 2 hours. We might have had a 30-minute lunch and then a 4-hour escapade and we went around the block 6 times.
Right.
Even in those gaps, let's think about it bigger picture. You went to work today. They told you couldn't clock in, but you can't leave the premises. Who finna come back to do another 8-hour shift when they left the first 8-hour shift?
Right.
No desire to sit down and watch
we watched the security footage from what happened the whole 8 hours that you was there in another room.
Or we in different rooms, so now I gotta call you. How was your experience? What you do? Where you visit? Right. Unfortunately, we got a life.
Right.
We are mothers.
Right.
We are women.
Right.
We have friends. There's a such thing like family. So when I left, I left. Some things could be unchecked. It's not that. It never got to the point for me to say I got to figure out what's going on behind closed doors because I didn't see it today.
So please leave
And
that.
these were fantastic. These were fantastic jurors. Very good. Great selection. Great.
Let's just lay that to rest. We are literally tired of hearing everybody saying that we know y'all were watching. Child.
Y'all were more vested.
I mean, we were
appreciate it. We appreciate it. I mean, it definitely gives us perspective.
But we're not watching it for 2 times.
Yeah.
Like, in the same day.
Okay, so I suppose they're talking or they're referring to not watching the trials after the day ends or whatever when they were on the jury, because if they're talking about not watching the trial after the jury, then I'm trying to figure out what the purpose of this channel is going to be. Hold on. I don't have time to go over 809.
So forth. We'll let y'all have it.
Right.
Next question. Love and Viverito.
All right.
What are you guys' opinions?
Okay.
I mean, we talked about this on Mel's Live. Shout out to I'm Not a Lawyer, but we had a great time talking on her YouTube channel. I did want to clear up something because I don't want it to come off that me personally, I don't want to speak for y'all.
Don't clear it up. Let it stand.
I'm bashing another Black woman when it comes to love. Never. Like we don't want to put down no Black women and all of that stuff. When I said on Mel's podcast that I had written her off, it was more so because of her professional demeanor. Like when she presented her evidence, I still paid attention to what it was that she was presenting. Like I was still considering what it was. I just was not necessarily appreciating the fashion that it was being presented and the way that she was holding herself as a Black woman, as a professional. I felt like she was very unprofessional. But don't get it twisted. Like I didn't just write off and say like, oh, anything Love do, I'm not gonna consider it, and that's not gonna be part of my evidence. Like I still looked at it and paid attention to everything. I just didn't care for how she carried herself because I felt like it was a bad look for a Black professional woman.
I don't know about that portion about, I guess I have to listen to everybody else. My issue where I'm struggling with this one a little bit because she keeps referring to it's not professional as, or she's talking about a Black professional woman. And I want to say maybe period in terms of the way that Love I don't know. Let me listen to everybody else. Let me form my thought, but I'm struggling with her response.
Say the same thing. I didn't care for her as well, but I felt as if she still had a job to do. And I was there for a purpose, and the purpose was to, listen to the evidence that was being presented amongst my fellow peers, and that pretty much was that. And at the end of the day, my personal perception of her had nothing to do with my aspect of the overall case or the evidence that was being presented. So, I mean, I still kept it cute.
I mean, just like I want to think, if we think bigger picture, her demeanor, her perception, is not necessarily a direct reflection of who she is personally. We don't know her personally.
Right.
I don't know her from a can of paint.
We didn't know anybody in there.
Don't know none of them from a can of paint. The position that most of us tried to maintain was the fact that this is a job. You have a job to do. What is the information that you're going to present, and how will you convey this message? Her demeanor is where there was some kind of disattachment, right? Because there are different aspects that I think everybody has been able to watch or pay attention to, the manner in which she speaks or how she has certain conversations with certain people, the energy that she invested in building rapport and how it was conveyed in the courtroom, the extra initiative to kind of visit conversations that they had in private. That's none of my business. I can't formulate a personal opinion about her because I don't know her personally.
Right.
I saw her in her working capacity. I can say with confidence that I was not the most comfortable with how she presented in a professional setting all the time. And that's not.
I wish, again, for this video, I wanted them to be, or at least it would help if they were specific, right? Is it the yelling? Is the walking around with a microphone? What exactly is it about her demeanor that, turned them off?
An opinion or necessarily an attack at who she is and her level of integrity, but that's how she presented, and that's what she conveyed. So that's what I took from it.
Okay.
Viverito.
Okay.
I ain't got nothing else.
Okay, we're done with Love. Again, when you're presenting a case before a jury, that is completely different from arguing a case before a judge. Typically, with a judge, you can attorneys can get away with a lot or being more aggressive when a judge is the finder of fact. The reason for that is because typically you are appearing before the same judges over and over again. And judges can almost always divorce an individual's personality from the case. Jurors, unfortunately, cannot, or from what I've seen, they do not do that. So that's why it is important to get the jury to like you. And I've always maintained, what's her name? Love and Steele, insufferable. I could not stand the both of them. They were irritating me because they were irritating me with the back and forth, the objections, the yelling, because I could not stand them. It was pretty obvious that the jurors were not going to stand any of those people. And for folks that were watching the trial in support of Young Thug, they obviously would have, or at least they enjoyed Steele's demeanor, but from a neutral standpoint, that is not how you behave in front of a jury. Because if you want, and this is just psychology, it goes with every facet of life. In order to get, depending on what it is that you want, but typically you're likely to get whatever it is that you want if the people that you want to buy into this idea like you. If they don't like you, they're going to basically what is this, nitpick anything and everything that you do. So it does help to be liked by the jury. So I think that Love may have lost sight of the fact that, I mean, she was obviously very zealous, right? And she was strong in her opinions and the manner in which she presented the case. She was aggressive, which is understandable considering the circumstances. But as far as a jury is concerned, an ordinary person is not going to enjoy that because they're there for a limited purpose, and they would like to return to, their regular lives. And Love, again, it probably could have worked if this was a short trial. And here's the thing, I'm one of those folks, I cannot stand people that complain and nag about anything and everything. So if this trial was shorter, maybe she could have gotten away with it if these jurors only had to deal with it for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, but going on a year, and she's behaving in the same way, yelling, I'd understand people will quickly get tired of, that type of presentation. But regardless, they still did not have the facts. So I would like to think that there's a universe somewhere out there where Love could have behaved the way that she did, but because they had all the facts and the evidence lined up, it could result in a guilty conviction. So, Real Thing, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome. FFS says she's overzealous. That girl went out there and did her thing, though. So I don't know. I need to watch more. I don't want to see in another courtroom, but I'd like to believe that maybe watching Love in a different trial, maybe she behaves differently, or maybe she does not. But here's the thing. There might also have been a lot of pressure on her because they overcharged and they were scrambling and did not know how. I would be very surprised if the DA's office thought they could. I'm not talking about at the time when they arrested or the time when they charged these defendants, but as the trial was going on, I'd be very surprised if any of them thought that they were getting convictions beyond that Taisha, what's her name? Taisha Alexander conviction. And the reason I say that is because even as when I was a prosecutor, this is before I actually did public defense, I could, in it depends on how, you guys know I'm a serial quitter. Like I'm always ready to move on. If I see something I don't like, always ready to move on. So typically what happens, especially with prosecutors' offices and public defenders, it's kind of different now, but those offices tended to have a high turnover rate. So it's not unheard of to join an office and inherit cases that you know nothing about, right? I mean, some people get sick, some people die on the job. So it's not unusual to inherit cases you know nothing about. During my time as a prosecutor, I've had many times when I inherited cases from like 4 or 5 years ago, and I'll read the facts and the evidence, and I'm like, this is a dog. There's nothing here. We should not even proceed with this case or whatever. So usually you're able to tell if you're honest with yourself and if you can assess the evidence, you're able to tell that you have no case. And as the presentation of this case was going on, I'd be very surprised if the assistant district attorneys in this case thought they were getting a conviction beyond that Taisha FN charge. So I mean, we cannot interview them. They have.
I am so glad to hear you say that, because
Oh,
this
why
is
is that?
because this is really one of my main questions, especially when we talk about Hilton. Both of them, all of them, throw them all in there. Body, Atkins. My question has been, would it been considered wrong or insubordinate for them to go to their boss, Fonnie, to have a real heart to heart to say, I really don't think we have a case. I don't think we're winning. I don't think the jury is following the case, or, connecting with our story.
Yeah.
Would it been wrong? I just wanted to know, like, what happened? It's like they doubled down. Even the defense attorneys talk about them, always talking like they are winning. And they're like, of course, all the Brian would say, no, we're winning. I think we're winning. I think we're winning. But just to be truthful with themselves, even for Hilton, even before, because I can't wait for us to talk about her the remainder of her closing.
Yeah. For that remainder of that closing, we're probably gonna get into that tomorrow, because I I wanted to get on here early because that was really my plan. But real thing, this is what you're gonna learn about me. Every Sunday, I shine my floors. Okay, you should
Oh
see. Like,
wow.
I wish I could take one day. I might record myself doing some random stuff. I shine my floors every Sunday, and I'm talking about it in a happy tone because it makes me really really happy. But
Wow.
yeah, my schedule was just a little off tonight,
No, no
but
problem. No
yeah, but
problem.
tomorrow, that's what we're going to start with because we only have an hour and we can get into it. But here's my thing
Mm-hmm.
with if you are going to stick to okay, you said would it have been wrong? Here's the thing.
Yeah, is that common to say, here is the truth about how the trial is going? I think from the get-go they should have spoke up to say, I don't think we have a case, but especially after they are in it
Yeah.
and they're going through it and a lot of things are going wrong.
I think it obviously they realized things were going wrong when they started offering those pleas. Okay. But even that said, it would again depend on the power dynamics in that case. It would depend on how much latitude Love had. Because I think I would like to assume that Fani is probably not as involved as the individual cases, but the timing of this trial could also play a factor because we were just heading into election season. Okay. So I don't know how the voters would have taken Fani dropping, what is this? The charges against these defendants. But the reason why I'm saying that it's hard for me to believe that they thought if they did not have any trial experience, sure, people that don't have trial experience don't know when they're losing, okay? And the reason I bring that up is because I'm trying to think. I was once training a prosecutor, somebody that just straight out of law school, and when I remember, I think this was it a burglary, a robbery? I don't remember. I remember the individuals that were involved, but I don't remember this precise charge. And I read because I inherited this case from somebody else. When I read the facts, and I read the statements, because typically, if there's a written statement, almost always a witness is going to get on the stand and say the same thing. When I read it, I could already see where the reasonable doubt was. And I'm like, okay, this case, I am losing. And this little kid was like, no, you're not losing. The only reason you're going to lose is because you think you cannot win and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And I'm like, no, that's not how criminal law and criminal procedure works. But in this case, it was, again, I'm trying to think, somebody that knows Hilton very well. I need some more info because I know that she's a professor, but how much trial experience does she have? I know she's worked, I think it's about 15 years. The only two types of people that don't realize when they're losing. People that have never tried a case and people that have tried very few cases. But to me in this case, it was very obvious that they did not have the facts. And the reason why I have more interest in Hilton is because my criticism of her as far as direct evidence or direct testimony is concerned, she's not always been able to connect the dots. She'll ask a question, ask a series of questions, but she never leads the fact finder to whatever it is she wants them to know from what the witness is saying. Like she just asks a bunch of random questions and does not connect. She does not make a point. So, from that perspective, maybe it, considering that at least she was not good when it comes to direct evidence, if that is her, if that is just the way that she tries cases, then maybe she's not able to realize when she's losing. But I would like to believe that there's at least somebody on the DA's team that could see that the whole case was a dog. But that's just my perspective, though. That's just my perspective. Do you have any follow-up questions? I know I talk a lot. I don't even know if I answered the question or not.
No,
But
you did.
okay, okay.
The one quick follow-up. Do you think it would matter? So from my understanding, I don't know for sure,
Uh-huh.
but from my understanding, Hilton does have trial experience.
Okay.
But do you think it would matter that it's a RICO with 6 defendants? It's like it's so much. It's like it's really 6 different stories
Right.
that have to be connected. And then they got these overt acts and these other people that are not on the case or in this trial, but they're trying to connect those other people too to show the overt acts. So it's so much. I don't think they have experience with trying a RICO with so many defendants. In my opinion, as a layperson, it seemed to be the real big problem with trying to connect the dots. It's too many different crimes and stories. Like you really would have to take your time to, really plan it out well before jury selection. It
Yeah.
really should have been mapped out.
I agree with that because a few weeks ago on one of these videos, I was pretty adamant that as much as I absolutely adore Meg Shard, I adore Meg Shard. As much as I adore him, as brilliant of an attorney, as brilliant as an attorney as he is, if Meg Shard was placed in the prosecution's shoes in this case, I don't think he would have done a better job. And the reason for that is because there are too many defendants, there are too many charges, and there are too many overt acts, there are too many attorneys that you have to deal with. I do not know of an attorney that would have been able to do the prosecution's job. Frankly, they chewed off more, or they bit off more than they could chew. So they should have, they just overcharged. They overcharged. They never should have brought the RICO. They should have brought the individual, the individual charges. I don't know, the possession of, illicit substances. Those they could have proven individually. But as far as trying to, because the whole RICO thing, you don't even really have to be a gang, okay? RICO is not concerned with you being a gang. You could be, I don't know, siblings and friends and, just associates or even complete strangers. But in this case, they just overcharged, and that's where they went wrong. Maybe they got overconfident, because obviously Fanny was parading around with the RICOs that she successfully brought up. I think it was against school teachers or something.
Yes.
So yeah, so maybe she got cocky, she got overconfident, but in this case, they did not have the facts. They did not have the facts. So
I get it. It would have, if it would have went the way Fonnie wanted it to. She wanted to be able to say, "See,
right,
I told you I was going to be hard on gangs, and I was going to get them guilty on this RICO, and I'm going to take down the leader and show that they all conspired to violate the RICO law." I
Yeah.
get it. I totally got what she was going for, but even Paul Howard knew it wasn't going to work.
Right. No, there comes a point where you have to be honest with yourself, but some folks cannot, they cannot self-edit. So that's probably what happened in this case. So, yeah. Okay. Let's get into Viv.
Say about Viverito. I didn't Viverito. I ain't got nothing to say about Viverito. I didn't see it for her. That's it.
And here's the other thing, real thing. When I'm talking about the prosecution being able to take a step back, when they, I don't know, everything was so, I don't know if it was hasty. I don't know what they were thinking. But if we have to focus on, Gotti's charges, for example, as soon as they got, what's his name? As soon as they got Young Thug out of there, as soon as he pled guilty, the honest thing to do should have been for them to dismiss the charges against Yak. That is my personal opinion, but
I agree.
I don't know why. Yeah, I have no idea why they decided to, because even from a presentation, I'd like to believe they have read enough case law. Once the person that actually owns the home is out of the picture, there's no way of tying anybody else that's in that residence to, the illicit substances or the firearms or anything. So I don't know why they kept those charges. But it's their business.
I love the way Doug said it. he said, Yak was a casualty to law enforcement's war on his best friend, Young Thug. But even after the directed verdict, which I hear from many lawyers that that's very rare.
Yeah.
Like that. So once that happened, like you're saying, with the experience that they have as prosecutors, once Whitaker was like, nah, no, you ain't met the burden on these.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they have really dropped the charges at that point? That was confirmation.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe again, it depends on who was really in charge, and I guess at this point we can correctly assume that the motives were political as far as Funny Willis is concerned, right? But I'd like to think that as a prosecutor, there's a certain level of honesty.
Integrity.
What's that?
Yes, integrity.
Right, integrity that you
yeah.
should maintain, as far as the public is concerned. But I think they should have, but from the get-go, they never should have charged the RICO.
And even after she won re-election,
Yeah.
she won it. So honestly, many of us were thinking like, okay, she probably gonna drop some charges. She got the re-election. We made it through the election. Now we can, see some changes. But no.
Yeah, but we'll see. Because again, I don't remember who it is that said this. It's not anybody that covers the YSL trial. It's more one of the political podcasts that I frequent. But somebody had mentioned that Fani is probably she's trying to. I guess she's kind of auditioning for Attorney General at this point. Maybe that's where, I don't know. It depends, because it depends on. I'm trying to think. I know I'm having a conversation, but I'm also thinking. Because typically, I don't know. Let me run the numbers and then I'll get back. Hold on. All right, let's play this.
Yeah, for me, it was just like I felt as if, like I stated last night, it was more so personal for her, and that's fine. But sometimes we have to leave our personal aspects of things out of the equation when it's work related. And if she would have did that, maybe she could have brought more evidence. Mm-hmm. Maybe they could have drawn a bigger picture of what we need to see, so the verdict could.
For Vivarito again, she was a terrible witness because she just appeared defensive. If she was going to curry any favor with the jurors, again, the prosecution, I don't know if they did not prep these people, but they should have made sure that Vivarito was well liked. Instead, Vivarito got on the stand, and I cannot even describe what that was. But again, she can do whatever it is she wants. It's her. It's her job. But because a lot of the things that Vivarito was defensive about were things that the prosecution could have easily cleared up on redirect. I don't know why she thought the need to go on defense, but she kind of, I don't want to say, I don't want to put it all on her. They should have coached her better.
Could have been different, but she was just so invested in her personal feelings that I think she missed the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think when I say that I wasn't here for her, I meant that her bark didn't match her bite didn't match her bark. And when I say that, I mean like the bite, meaning the evidence that she provided and all of that stuff, it didn't match all of the stuff that she was doing. Like, she was so defensive, she was doing all of this, but what she brought to the table didn't necessarily match that. So I was just kind of like, girl.
Kind of is what it is. I feel like it's still like kind of similar to love. It got personal. You had an agenda.
Yeah.
You looked for things that you were looking for. You shed light to things that you thought were valid. Opportunities kind of presented themselves in the courtroom that kind of solidified the fact that there were opportunities, there's holes. You took something out of context. You kind of see what happened before and what after, and they don't necessarily line up. based off of the snippets of what we had in her case, like I said yesterday, I don't know any job where you can detail, do work, do research, and there's nothing that supports the steps that you took to solidify whatever it is decision that you made.
I mean, okay, as far as when I moved over to, I'm referring to the absence of lack of reports. It's actually not required. Okay, I was surprised because when I was a prosecutor, at least in my jurisdiction, there was always a police report. Okay, there was always an investigative report. There's always something. And then I switched over to public defense, and my second, no, I was in three, I was in three different public defenders offices. In my second public defender's office, it was a much larger office. I think it's probably the largest office I have worked in. Now that I think, it may have been the largest office I've worked in. But in my second public defender's office, I was shocked when I received a case from the DA's office and there were no reports. And I'm like, okay, so how am I gonna go about this? And I'm scrambling, reaching out to, my superiors, and everybody's pretty much like, you're kind of screwed. There's nothing that can be done there. So it's not, I mean, it's her personal opinion when she says that she is not aware of a job where there are no reports or whatever, but it's not necessarily criminal.
Everything has to be documented. Everything has to be memorialized on paper or on a computer system or somewhere down that kind of does or encompasses what it is. Now, I can't say what her subpoenas look like because, of course, we're alternate. I didn't get an opportunity to see it. Right. But
we didn't look at it.
Could it be really detailed enough to say I did this on this day? My workload encompasses this. I did blah, blah, blah. Screenshots and a phone grab is kind of similar to Wikipedia to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's my opinion. Okay. Sorry. Next question. Nice. Weinstein in the lean. Did we laugh?
Yeah. All right, so we have, what's the time? It's 9:36. We have until 10. I have to do my hair, you guys. So I have to do my hair. So at 10, we will call it a night, okay?
Yes.
He definitely laughed. Yeah, we did. I think the whole jury laughed. It was nice to have some of those times where everybody just kind of laughed and it was like lighthearted. So that was definitely one of those times. We didn't take it too serious. I mean, they had passed around guns and pills and all kind of stuff before. So
and lean and the Sprite bottle.
Yeah, they did. They did. So
everything but the money.
Yeah,
we didn't
right.
touch
them pass their money or that jewelry around.
And for those inquiring minds, it wasn't lean. It was some kind of drink.
THC drink, a Delta 8.
Right.
A pre-mixed drink that you probably get out of a vape store.
Correct.
We did touch the Sprite bottle that had lean early in the case. Early in the case. We touched the rubber.
Kind of, I had not, I mean, I don't think about drugs every day of my life, but I had not realized that lean was still a thing because that was more popular around the Lil Wayne, around Lil Wayne's time. Because I'm trying to think, like, when I don't know, I just did not think, again, I don't think about drugs every day, but I had not realized that there are people out there that are still hooked on lean.
For bands that touch the money.
Yeah, they passed around the rubber band.
I didn't. I was being I don't know. I just felt like, okay, I can see it. I don't need to touch it.
Yeah. I mean, those are kind of the things that they kind of passed around, but the guns and the money never made it. The bullets made it. Yeah. I mean, but it kind of covered the territory at that point.
Yeah, but we did laugh when he tried to pass along the lead. It was a nice little lighthearted moment for us.
Right. Let's see. Were you surprised the defense didn't call their own witnesses? I can say for my personal self, no. Okay. I don't. Based on how
I'm gonna, because what is this? We did talk a little bit about, I don't remember, maybe a week or two ago, about whether defense should have called witnesses. It does make a difference, especially, I mean, this jury was, they were in and about, or they at least were on duty for over a year. So maybe it did not matter as much to them. But again, when it comes to zealous representation, I believe in crossing my T's, dotting my I's. If we go to the Daniel Penny, or whatever, what's the guy's name? The star boy. What's his name?
Daniel Penny. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is Daniel Penny.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because it was sometime last week where I quickly logged on there, and the defense had called some. I mean, we've watched the video. It's a difficult video to watch. But the defense had called some witness. I pulled it up here because I wanted to share it with thanks, Brooklyn. I wanted to share it with the rest of you. I'm gonna have to find the video. I have too many tabs open. But to almost always, it does help for the defendants to bring in an expert witness, because even if the testimony is kind of fluff, it goes a long way as far as a typical jury is concerned. So let's get back in here.
Information was delivered and the evidence that we were given. Did I need anything else to identify holes presented? I can confidently say, even though I did not have the opportunity to deliberate, we know I'm an alternate. There was already holes. Making the holes any bigger wouldn't change the fact that I didn't feel confident that they were guilty. So I'm not really surprised.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, I was an alternate as well. But I really didn't. I mean, it was a non-factor for me. And this is pretty much it. I mean, when we think about the two attorneys that were left, like, it kind of wasn't really surprising. But I definitely know if Steele had been there, he would have brought his own witnesses, and he would have probably had about 75 of them.
Yeah, the state brought Atlanta. Steele was gonna bring Georgia.
Yeah, yeah.
I looked a few weeks ago. We looked at I think it was the witness list, the witness list for Jeffrey. They had listed Fuddy Willis on there. I was like, what the hell? This trial was definitely out of control. They should have edited themselves much better.
I was here for it because I feel like it's only fair. I mean, I know we get to see some of the defense side when they do their cross examinations and stuff, but I wanted to see kind of what they were bringing too, because I really was fully contemplating the whole thing until the very end. So, I mean, I do kind of feel like we were robbed a little bit, but also, like she said, it was already big holes in the case, and it wouldn't have changed anything, at least for me. Well, okay, yeah, let me just say I wasn't. The thing for me is I'm a first-time juror, so I didn't really know what to expect. What I have heard since we haven't been there was a lot of time defense, they don't call witnesses. So I guess for me it wasn't a deal breaker, and pretty much everything that was presented from the state, I guess the defense kind of already knew. Or assumed, I'm gonna say, they already pretty much assumed that they didn't need to.
Was that it? Dang, that's abrupt, but okay. All right, that was fantastic. That was actually a good video. I guess I'm in better spirits today, because yesterday I was about to fly out of here. I was not gonna sit and listen to them, but yeah, that was I like that. I enjoyed the video. So shout out to Real Thing for encouraging me to watch it. That was good. That was good.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you gave it another chance.
I know, but last night I don't know what was going on. I just wanted to clown. That's it. But I guess it was a good video because it came after the law and crime interview, so I had a bit more context. Let me see. What did I miss in here? Right. They were. That's what I saw. They dismissed the most serious count. As far as Daniel Penny's concerned, that's a I don't know. That's a That's a difficult case for me to cover. It's one of those cases that I steer clear of just because of my personal opinion. So that one, I don't know. I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it alone. Let me see. What did I miss? What did I miss in here? I know I missed a lot. I missed a lot. I was not able to keep up with the chat. Okay, so Brooklyn says, Fannie Willis pushed very hard. Even when the email from Germany came in, Fannie told them what a good job they're doing. They were in denial. They probably were in denial, but if they were in denial, that's good because we know that they know the truth. Okay. Baby Girl says, shout out to Baby Girl. Baby Girl said, Love showed everyone the corruption in the prosecutor's office and how innocent people end up with a criminal record. I need you to elaborate a little bit more on that. FFS says she shouldn't be allowed in any courtroom again. Okay, let's see. Lawyers is a business and nobody's there to make friends. What do you mean? But I guess you guys were just talking to each other because I cannot keep up with the chat. Let's see. Okay, that's my alarm. We have 15 we have 15 minutes left. Let's see what's going on here. It sounds like an interesting conversation. Okay, lots of people. Prison reform is a hot topic at the moment. Let's see. No, I haven't. Diggy says, "Woohoo, LSU!" Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad they won. I'm glad they won. So I'm gonna watch the highlights from the South Carolina game. Oh wait, what? Old Bag said 409 is fighting with Ketna Williams. What are you referring to? Like, is it okay? So Dennis is live. Diggy's funny. Let's see. Somebody said something about Christmas. I don't know. That's unrelated. I need to send out my Christmas cards by Friday. All right. So if somebody's fighting, at least I know what I'm going to watch when I get to work tomorrow. Let's see. This case will be looked upon for decades to come. They're going to show this as an example of prosecutorial misconduct. Let's see. Prosecutorial misconduct. Does it rise to the level? I don't know. I have to give it some more thought. But I mean, it is a good case in terms of what not to do. There's certainly a lot of lessons to be learned, and not just from the prosecution's perspective. As far as Doug's inability to cross-examine, that needs to be studied as well because he's awful. He's awful. If he does have another criminal trial again, he needs to go brush up on how to cross-examine because he knows nothing about cross-examination. No, I haven't. The first people I reached out to was the juror. Okay, so I think this was Flesh of the Gods replying to whether he reached out to Kayla or not. All right. Let's see. Lots of people. Prison reform is a hot topic at the moment. I'm so lost. I don't even know exactly. I don't know where we are with this discussion because I've done a terrible job. Okay, so Brooklyn says reform will never happen. They're not building jails fast enough, and people don't want them in their communities. Who are you referring to? Bail reform went in effect and that didn't work out too well. I actually, Brooklyn, I need you to respond to this. What do you mean by bail reform not working? That is one of, let me see. Okay, I need you to explain that and then I'll make my point. I don't ever ask people. Blah blah blah. I don't expect to reform everyone, but those who can be reformed deserve a fair opportunity. Things change, people make mistakes. Convicts are only people that make mistakes. Right. Who's this? Rachel Kaufman. Let's go. I definitely believe in criminal justice reform. I am a huge advocate of bail. I don't think, again, this is when we go to, oh, Brooklyn actually replied. Hold on. Let's see. Brooklyn says, no, I thought this was a new message. That's not, is it? No, that's not a new message. All right, so let's see. Tomorrow we're back regular schedule. Tomorrow's Monday. Let's do 10 p.m. I think 10 p.m. has worked out well for everybody on weeknights, right? I think 10 p.m. Well, let's do 9:30. No, let's do 9:30. 9:30 p.m. Tomorrow. That's 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's a great time to get on here. We have like what 11 minutes. I think it's a good time to end the live right now because I need to do my hair. Need to do my hair. I'm very, very happy with my florist. I'm very proud. Need to do my hair and get set for tomorrow. So Real Thing, shout out to Real Thing though. She came out here and she hung out with me. Any closing?
No, thank you as always. Thank you for answering my questions. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
having me on your platform.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. Hey, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you recommended the videos that you did because I absolutely enjoyed watching them. As far as tomorrow, I think tomorrow let's close out the states closing because obviously I know Real Thing has questions. Other folks might have questions as well. And then let's see. I was supposed to do a lot on YouTube today. I did not edit some of the stuff I had to do, but I have chores, okay? Random. I know I always have random stories, but here's the thing. I personally do not like people in my space. I don't like people cleaning up after me. My kid, I'm trying to teach my kid chores. Sometimes she gets it right, other times not so much, but she tries her very best. She tries her best. In any event, I do not like having people come in my space and clean up after me. And I've not always been this way, but back in the day, uh, during my prosecutor days, this is a random, I know this is going to be a really random story, but during my prosecutor days, we had a judge, right? There was a judge, I don't remember his name, I just remember what he looked like. In any event, this judge apparently had a brother or whatever that lived with him and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And he had a cleaning lady. The cleaning lady turned out to be friends with one of the court clerks. The cleaning lady was not exactly friends, but acquaintances. And here's the thing, a lot of us love to gossip. People in public defenders' offices, prosecutors' offices, clerks' offices, corporate America, people love to gossip. All right. So basically, it turned out this cleaning, she did eventually get fired for this, but this cleaning lady went and told obviously the folks in a neighborhood, the folks in a neighborhood, and it somehow made its way to the court clerk, and then it obviously made its way to the judge. But it turns out that this brother was not actually a brother. The brother was a lover, okay? Because the court clerk would be talking about how, not the court clerk, I mean the cleaning lady. She went out spilling the people's secrets and how the bed sheets were soiled and this and that and this and that and butt plugs and stuff. So I'm really immature, but that is why I don't have people in my space. I'd rather clean up, do my own cleaning, and my mess stays right here. It doesn't make its way elsewhere, and that's also why I don't hang out with people I work with. All right, so Brooklyn says bail reform was supposed to work, that first-time offenders would get out faster, but judges abuse that power. I need more information. What exactly are you referring to? Like, Brooklyn, can you get up here? I'm going to send this link. Hopefully you can get up here, but I also need to go. I need to go because I need to go do my hair. Let's see, I have like 7 minutes. I'm trying to understand exactly what it is that you are saying because the purpose of bail reform is to ensure that people are not held in pretrial detention when a prosecutor has not proved its case. Okay. And obviously, I mean, we've seen the reports of what not just Rikers Island, but recently we saw what's a place, Fulton County, Rice Street, We've seen reports of what it looks like in there. Okay. And I absolutely do not believe in caging folks up, especially when you've not proved your case. You've not proved anything. Some of those folks, and here's the reality of things with all the plea dealing that goes on, most of these people are cut deals. If that is what's going to happen, anyways, I don't see why. I don't see why folks should be held in custody for extended period of time or lengths of time for a prosecution that's never going to prove its case or ever going to try a case. I definitely don't agree um, with pretrial detention as far as I am the release on own recognizance queen. All right. I have pushed enough buttons in the last, no, that's actually, I was in another public defender's office before I moved to civil litigation. In any event, I am the type of person that would push buttons. What I mean by that is one of my other jurisdictions, which is a completely different state, oftentimes they would put nominal bail on folks. Nominal bail, it's not real bail. Okay, you have something else going on, so they would put nominal bail on a criminal defendant in order for the time that they're incarcerated to actually count. Okay, in any event, I started off because you have to test the waters, you have to see what the judges are about. So when I appeared before new judges, initially I would, ask reasonable bail or whatever, and then I just went down to $50. I went down to $10, and then I started asking for $1 bail. I remember when I did it in a full courtroom once, because the courtrooms aren't always full, it just depends on the day. I did it in a full courtroom once. You should have heard the people gasping. But I don't believe in folks being detained in custody, um, considering that the prosecution has not proved its case. It's one thing. It is one thing if you've proved your case and this person is, I don't know, going to prison for a year or two. But for people to lose their jobs, lose contact with their family, lose their loved ones, some folks go on to lose their homes, right? For a prosecution that has not proved its case, I can never stand behind that. Yeah, real thing. I used to ask for $1 bail. Like I was really insane. I wish you guys could have seen me as a public defender. I was really, really, really insane. But my clients absolutely loved me. We'll end there. But Brooklyn, we can have a further discussion about this. As for right now, shout out to everybody. My co-counsel for the evening was Real Thing. I appreciate that. Shout out to Ellie, Jerome. Shout out to Jasmine, FFS, Diggy, Flesh of the Gods. Am I leaving anybody else out? I hope I'm not. But shout out to everybody that tuned in. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Old Bag. Shout out to the replay crew. Okay. And then let's see. Shout out to all public defenders. All right, folks. I'm leaving. All right. I'll be back tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna get started. We will close off. Yeah, we'll finish out that state's closing because obviously I've not finished it. In any event, I'm just going to start rambling and I need to end here. FFS, I am going to reply to your email right now. Okay. I'm going to reply to your email and then we'll take it from there. All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in.